You muffin sitting there waiting on your new PulseChain data. That's what's happening. Game of DevOps already in the chat. What's happening, man? Welcome. You may hear me mute or pause every once in a while. Again, still getting over whatever this is, but that will not stop us. We will march on. We will continue to hopefully one day make all-time highs or break them. And in the meantime, we're going to have some fun with new data. I'd been on the show probably 6 weeks ago or so, and went over a lot of different charts. He's great on Twitter, posting a lot of different stats and metrics, and again, telling both sides of the story. Some things are surprising in a good way and surprising in a bad way as well. So different kinds of lots of stuff we're going to go through. Last time he said he wanted to come back on to when he was getting PulseChain data, because last time he just had data for HEX. Now he's got it for both. Very excited for that. It's November, and we are ready to dive into to the new stuff. So again, hope you're buckled in. If you're ready for some data, we've got plenty of charts to go over and things to ponder on. Put the questions in the chat as you have them. We'll get to as many as we can, and let's get into it. Welcome back to the show, Ben Sierra. Surprise! Oh, you're muted. Now you are back. Yes.
Nice. I'm glad to be back. Thanks for inviting me again. It's great to be here. And it's great to stream. There is November, everything is gloomy, everything is dark. We had a nice October. And I finally got some PulseChain data for HEX. And that was really exciting for me to get it. And I just recently loaded it. So I don't have all the answers yet. So I'm going through it with you together, have some new stuff, which I want to show. And also throughout November, we will dig into things, I guess, on Twitter as well, into the questions which might arise today. Either you will have questions, Max, even I will, I think, just get new questions in myself. And yeah, in the comment sections, there are always some interesting, nice comments.
Yeah, after the stream last time too, and during the stream, we had some questions, and just people kind of like, I feel like this is something that will be useful for people to look at. And again, a lot of new stuff too. This is stuff you just got the data. You've been posting some on Twitter. We talked in the green room about some of the OA analysis, and we'll cover that as well as time allows. But boy, it was a pumptober. It was a pumptober, and I think the people got excited again for some HEX stuff. So that's what we're going to get into. Yeah, man. What do you want to start with? What kind of stuff do you want to kick it off with?
We can kick it off with staking. Just and starting compare like EHEX with PHEX. I posted already 2 charts. We can go over them and maybe look into the months each. And then put some thoughts to it. And what I'm interested in what you think and how you rationalize kind of the staking behavior. Yeah,
I've heard of staking. It is one of the things that seems to bring a lot of people in the ecosystem and keep them in for up to 15 years or more. So let's do it, man.
All right. Gonna I think that should work.
Ooh, pretty colors.
Oh yeah, there they are. Nice. Yeah, so first up we have, just basically new stakes per month. So this was a chart where I had only EHEX data before. So what I did here is that since the fork, whenever there was a new stake made on PHEX, that's counting, but I'm not double counting basically the stakes which were made before. That's what you see only an orange chart basically in April. And yeah, I mean, this was something I think everybody just wanted to see. Okay, how many stakes were made with PHEX and how many stakes were made with EHEX? And what I realized through basically stacking these bar charts on top of each other is that staking behavior pretty much stayed the same, in a sense of that staking overall is just this year like kind of stable if you basically add EHEX and PHEX together. And then, as you can see, basically the lila bars, they are bigger than the oranges ones since the fork. So we have more PHEX staking than EHEX staking. I think that's something that everybody expected, right? Did you expect?
Right. Yeah.
Did you expect actually a bigger ratio? I mean, we can go in just here. It's like 50, in May it was 51% PHEX and 55% in June. Then going into 67% in July, so quite a bigger portion. Then we're back to 69%, 66, and now in October we had 67. So what do you think about the ratio? Do you think it's something that you expected or not?
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense, where it was kind of head and head around 50-50 at first. And then if I were to guess without seeing the data, the number of new stakes, how far ahead PHEX would be, I would say it would be like two-thirds of it being the PHEX, and then kind of like around 30% being the EHEX. I think that makes most sense. A lot of people just they want to do more stuff on PulseChain for all the fees, and otherwise maybe they're higher on that for whatever reason. So I could see that ratio. That part makes sense.
What I thought maybe that basically on PHEX you might get the same amount of staking like before. So I would have thought maybe in June we get a 12K of PHEX stakes, but instead we got only 6 HEX PHEX stakes. So I thought that that PHEX staking is actually more than what we see. But so for me, it was a bit surprising to see, okay, actually the users kind of decided, some of them to stake in PHEX, some of them to stake in EHEX, which would make sense because, I mean, if you're an individual person, maybe if you want to make a new stake, you don't stake on both chains. Maybe you make one stake on one chain, and then the next month, if you want to make a new stake, you decide on which chain you want to do, but you don't do basically now 2 on both chains.
So you're thinking more people are deciding to do most of them on one or the other, or do you think that the people staying with EHEX are kind of just staying, like they're staying with one or the other? They're choosing versus kind of proportional. For example, with me, when I'm doing my stakes these days, it's more of I do most of them, I think, with PulseChain. Like my current thing is most of them on PulseChain, but then I still have some of them on Ethereum. But I'm not choosing. I'm just kind of like, depending, ratios, and, of course, again, cheap T-shares, a lot of them come from EHEX these days. That factors in. So that's a reason. I think actually the discount with EHEX is a big reason why I would still keep making stakes there. Because again, the cheaper T-shares for the amount of HEX you can get in. Do
you make a different lengths of stakes, Max?
I haven't been differentiating. Yeah, like if the question is, are my PHEX stakes longer than EHEX, for example, I haven't been differentiating time as much. I think, I haven't been factoring that in really, because again, we could talk about like why EHEX versus PHEX. I think eventually Ethereum will solve a lot of the gas fee problems and stuff. And I think we have products and stuff that solve that today with, pooled staking otherwise. So I don't even factor in, if I'm making a 5, 10, 15 year stake, maybe I slightly prefer PulseChain for that, but it's not enough to really swing my decision as much, at least with my current thinking.
I see. Yeah, this is something that I could basically investigate, of how much of this staking behavior happens at the same time. So if the ad was staking on both, or is it choosing just on one? This is something that I could go and look into in November. That would be interesting. But what we can definitely see is that when we just look at the amount of how much HEX was staked, there, if you stack, basically, let me just ask you one thing. Do you hear background noise?
A little bit of something back there, but it's not too bad.
Okay, all right. So when we look at stake amounts and how much HEX was staked, then actually the amount of staking is rising. But here the ratios are a little bit different. So when you go over the amount, here we have 42% in PHEX, then 49% in PHEX, then 55%, 58% in August, 58 in September, and now in October, 50. It's kind of remaining at 58%. So it's more like a 50-50.
Trying to think, is this like, maybe I'll turn to you too. Was this, do you expect it to keep going up, the ratio? Because you can see, the PX principal is going up. Do you think it'll go up, or do you think it'll kind of settle at a certain ratio?
I think it depends also on price. Maybe that's why we see these high amounts in EHEX staking, because you have a lower price for EHEX. So people just tend to lock up more of the HEX supply than in PHEX. So there could be an interesting metric where you look up how much dollar value was locked up.
Yeah,
and maybe you would get a similar ratio, like with just the staking count.
I wonder how different this would be if there was parity. If they were the same price, would PX go way up, for example, and be like, okay, if they're the same price, I'm choosing PX. However, EHEX, maybe I factor that in as an advantage, as a discount, as a, hey, if I think they're the same, if I like T-shares, like maybe the discount ratio is really feeding EHEX as well here.
Yep, I also think so. But this is also not really surprising for you, right? That, let's say, the amount is slightly rising throughout the year with the price dropping. Would you have expected something else?
Interesting. I wonder, if the price go, say we get, HEX goes to 5 cents or something by the end of the year, just complete speculation, but if the price is rising like that, so much, I wonder, would the principal, so the dollar amount, so again, this is measuring the HEX, but you talked about measuring the dollar amount may be interesting as well. Would people be staking more, or staking the market? I guess this is the market dynamic thing of like, would the excitement make people want to buy more HEX regardless of price, versus because they're getting less with their dollar, but at the same time, the whole sentiment could affect. That's the interesting thing about these charts. It's like we have the data, but there's the market sentiment that comes into play here too. That's maybe doesn't quite show up.
Yeah, and how do you think like stake length was affected? What's your guess? Without scrolling down so that you don't see.
Stake length. I'm trying to think what may affect. What are some common things that would affect stake length? Well, if you're thinking about the next cycle, if you believe it's going to be 2024, 2025, 2026, or somewhere through there, then maybe you're staking for 1, 2, 3 years. You're making a few more of those than you normally would if you're anxious to, see the payoff quicker. Of course, you get, less T-shares because you're not doing longer pays better, obviously, but maybe there's some timing, some market timing around that. And then you're doing smaller stakes out, 10, 15 years.
Yeah, but what would you think? PHEX was staked longer in the recent months than EHEX?
Oh, why PHEX was staked longer than EHEX in the last few
Or
months?
EHEX? Yeah, I mean, I'm asking you, what do you think? And then we look at the data.
Yeah. Maybe it got a boost in confidence, especially from, September, October there. Yeah, maybe just it was kind of iffy. I don't know. We had, the BankX stuff, and otherwise, I guess technical wise, do you think it's I can see sentiment, but do you think it's a sentiment? Do you think it's a technical change in it as well? Like, what were you thinking?
I think stake length is, it's a lot of sentiment. Like, I think stake length shows always where we are in sentiment. That's a good thing. So I'm just showing you how it turned out to be this year. And you also said before that you are more likely to stake basically PHEX longer than your EHEX. And this you can see on the chart. Here I had averages and medians both on the same chart. So the upper two lines, the orange one is the average EHEX stake length, and you have the average PHEX stake length. So they're above each other. With how much? I mean, is it very significant? Like, let's say in June we had 1,100 days and we had 1,600 days for PHEX. So confidence in PHEX was much stronger also at that time, I would say. And it's almost like, what is it? This 50% more, 60% more? How much is it? Something around that. Is it not too loud in the background? Or is it only for me?
Here from time to time, but it's fine.
Okay.
It's nothing you can do about it. That's okay.
Yeah. All right. But what we can see is that the median, when we look at the median, it's pretty much similar, the median EHEX stake length and the median PHEX stake length. So if people are not familiar, median is sometimes showing better what most of the people are actually doing than the average. The average can usually skew the metric when there are big stakes coming. And those outliers basically take up the metric. So actually, staking length, if you look at the median, are pretty similar to each other. So most of the people who are staking, they go around actually staking 1 year. What do you think about that?
Well, so most of the people who are staking, and it's based on they're staking 1 year in 2023. Like based on 2023 data, they're staking their HEX this year out 1 year.
Yeah, so at each data point you see, it's like new stakes made basically within that month and how long they are staking. So in 2023, especially here since July, it's quite constantly around 1 year. They're staking it out, and it's dropping from January, where we had 500 days.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a lot of people are hopeful of 2024 at some point.
I think I also heard so often now on different streams and on Twitter that they should have taken profit and they should have sold the top. Next bull cycle, I will make it better. I will get the top. So I think many people think that 2024 or 2025 is the next top of the next cycle. And I just don't feel that sentiment, or from like hearing it. I can basically see it on this chart. I can see it on the median chart. I could make actually the chart longer so that we can understand how it dropped.
That's it's interesting in a way that it's kind of like that. So the new stakes, whether people, it'll be also interesting. I don't know if you can pull this data either at some point, but to see people who bought, like, did they buy recently and then stake it in order to make that? Like, did they make, or are they rolling over a new, something to do with that, to like show like their intention of, did they just come on, get the HEX and then stake it in order to, because maybe that would point to, hey, they're going to cash out, or at least going to give themselves options. But if they're rolling over old stakes into 1 year, maybe it says the same thing, but maybe the intentions, there could be a difference in those. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, I think I can make those charts basically where you would have a filter where you have the stake length chart, and you just can say, here's the stake length charts for the people who already have stakes and they're restaking. And then there's the chart for the new people who just bought HEX. That would be quite interesting, true.
I wonder if people onboarding too are saying, hey, buy some HEX, just stake it for a year. Or are they saying, like, maybe I wonder if the onboarding message is influencing that, or it's just because if you're new to HEX, if you haven't felt buying at 40 cents, locking it up and seeing it go down to, under a penny, which on paper looks really bad. If you haven't seen that, maybe you're not thinking of it as, hey, I'm going to try to, lock it up while it's cheap and then sell it when the price goes up. Maybe you're thinking, oh, I like this, CD thing, earns over time. T-shirts only go up. I can lock it up and longer pays better, bigger pays better, stuff like that. Maybe you have a different mindset a new onboard would, unless they're being onboarded and, maybe told to influence other ways, or maybe they're saying, okay, make your big stake shorter and then make some longer stakes just in case this thing works out. I'm just curious about the onboarding message and how much that affects the new stakes coming in too. I know that's, kind of hard. That's not something you'd pull from the blockchain or from the metrics, but just want to put that in there as well.
Yeah, I can't get it right now, but maybe next time.
Yeah.
I could get something. Yeah, but here you have the whole length. So you can see how the median and the average developed over time. And I mean, the median wasn't that low for quite a long time. We had a median which was around 1 year before, but that was basically, in Q2 2020. As well as on the average, it's at a similar height. So you can see that the confidence in long-term staking is dropping with the price. And the average PHEX length is longer.
Is there a parallel there with, people seeing price go down and they want less of it, and they see price go up, they want more of it. Is this kind of playing out? Is there a similar parallel here where people see HEX price go down, so they have less faith in it? They see, maybe when the price goes up, maybe you'll see people staking longer. What do you think about that?
Well, we can. I just wanted to find September 2021. So the thing is, when faith was really high, or most of the people came in 2021, it was the highest amount of stake length, not even on the median chart. The highest was at the end of Q1 2021. So after big payday, we went into staking actually quite long, as well as 1 year later in 2022 in March again. These are the two peaks when the longest stakes were made. I mean, if you have any idea of why the confidence in the system was much higher back then, let me know.
Well,
March 2022 was basically after PulseX sacrifice and after Hedron launch, right? And people were expecting maybe the price to actually go to all-time highs again. So they did not see the dumping coming. So that was kind of, you can see the sentiment really well. As well as after,
I was just going to say, you see the drop there in April. Is that because everyone thought PulseChain was going to launch in mid-May, and they were like, "Oh, I'm not staking out long because I, want my PX copy"?
Yeah, could be. Pretty much. Then it was delayed.
That would be funny if all this was like people's emotions about PulseChain launch. That would be funny if that was the driver. It's like, oh, is it coming? No, I don't think it's coming. Oh, maybe it's coming. No, I don't think it's coming.
Well, if you think when PulseChain was announced, it was March 2021, I think. And we have a peak in the chart here at March 2021.
Interesting. So they were staking longer based on the news of PulseChain launch. Maybe that was this is going to protect us, protect HEX.
But already in February 2021, it was quite high, very similar. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just after big payday, the chart started to go up again, I think. So confidence was coming back, but yeah. But now we have this drop basically in confidence, and it's not just EHEX, it's PHEX as well. Even though the average is higher, I think the median is the one which is really showing the sentiment that's just at its lowest. It's stable at 1 year, but I think that shows sentiment currently.
Have you thought about any of these social events that are happening? Like for example, having this data, can we look back at it? We talked about different events happening, and that's may or may not have caused some of the stuff people waiting on PulseChain or otherwise. But I was just thinking, I wonder during Richard's phase of bring all your heroes here to die, the outrage marketing phase, and then the SEC stuff, and then even before that, all the debates and otherwise, I wonder if you could see that over time on a chart and see which ones gave people confidence and which ones didn't give confidence. Is there a chart of events that gave people confidence and lost confidence over time in HEX and PulseChain. Is that even possible to make?
Yeah, I mean, what we just need is basically it's just a CSV file or an Excel file where you have like the date of events and the names, and I could just combine it here, and I could mark basically the events on the charts, and we could see that.
Dude,
That's
can we do that?
possible.
Can we do that for the next one? Can you make a note to have that for the next one? That would be very interesting to see if there's any correlation, because maybe there's not.
I don't know. Has somebody an idea how to get basically all the events with the time stamps or dates? Because that's something hard to get in an automated way, or somebody makes a manual list.
Maybe we could use our Twitter to help with that. Like, what, give us reply with dates of significant events in HEX and PulseChain ecosystem. We're using this for data modeling. I think people would help. I think it's worth a try.
Yeah, we can totally do it. Maybe like a Google Sheet where people can just put in all the events and we do it together.
Now we're talking, man. All right, I think we have a plan. I'm gonna make a note to do that. I like that. I had a question to shout out to Access Live. He was excited to see some new angles in HEX staking more. Any insights on adoption?
Yeah, I think we can stop sharing, and I will share another dashboard. I have some other charts there where we can see basically new users.
Okay.
A second. All right, got it right here.
I'm excited about the spreadsheet where I made a note. Also, chat, I'm not ignoring you. However, we got a lot of stuff to go through. So if you have any particular questions, comments, appreciate those as well. If you have any particular questions, I'll try to get to them as we can. But we got some pretty colors, and we're already planning some other cool data stuff as well while we're here.
I have to go. I think somebody just called me. Stop.
Oh, no worries.
I'm coming back.
Okay. He's coming back. Don't worry, everyone. When he said I have to go, I'm like, oh no, like we have to stop the stream. That would suck, but we're all good. How's everyone doing out there? Now I have some time to talk to chat. Let's do that. Here we go. It's fate. Fate makes these things happen, huh? Access is here. Appreciate the retweet, man. Appreciate that. Duke is here. I think I saw you tweet earlier about this. Appreciate that, man. Stake HEX long and trade the perpetuals. Not a terrible idea. I'm just going to call you, I want to say emancipated. That's like the word I think of when I see it. We go through this every time, don't we? Every time. Can you, if you're still here and listening, could you pronounce your name in a message just so I can have an idea? Because I'm literally, when I look at this, I'm a loss of words of how to say that word. Academicated. Acasemated. No, there's a D though. It's like academy, but aciated. Academicated. That's the best I got. Academicated. There's a lot of like, it's tough. It's tough. Help me out someday if you're still listening, if you feel like it. DJ and Hexkin, how's it going? Red Squirrel here as usual. Good to see you, man. Got a little icosahedron with beside your squirrel there, looks like. What's up, Peso dude? Welcome, welcome. Big Boy Garm says confidence HEX going down, very predictable. That's not untrue. Now, will that be the profitable move? We don't know. But definitely confidence HEX has been shaken. Prospect of a copy on PulseChain was a big factor. Yep. Let's catch up on some of the comments. We had to look at some of the charts. I'm excited to get into this. I asked Ben, I think I gave him like 5 different things I wanted to see as well. So hopefully we have time to get to it. Level up on crypto. How's it going? Welcome, welcome. When I see a handshake, it's like, it reminds me like, if we were like meeting in a meetup and stuff, we see a handshake. And he's back. What's up, Ben? Just saying hi to the chat.
Yeah,
Godfather.
I'm back.
Godfather Gates. The original Quant Gang gave all confidence past going to do this, right? We certainly hope so, Tony Scott. Certainly hope so. All right, Ben's back. How's it going?
Yep, I'm back. We can go back into the charts that I brought up are basically new addresses using HEX per month over all its lifetime. And on the right side, we see PHEX data, and on the left side, we see EHEX data. And we have May here in 2023. And what I wanted to show is that we have more new addresses which are using HEX. In May, it's like only 3K more. Or in June, we have, like it's pretty similar. In June, we have 5,000 new EHEX users, but only 4,600 new PHEX users. And then EHEX is dropping to 3K, staying kind of at 2K in August and going back to 3K in September. And now in October, again, 3K, whereas in PHEX, we have new users around 4K, another 3,500 in August, and 4,000 October. So I'm not sure if that's what you expected or what people expected, but that's kind of the reality.
I'm telling you, I'm still going back to the idea that people like to buy high and sell low. It's like they like to stake longer when there's less T shares, and they like to stake less when there's more T shares. It's funny. I think I'm going with that for now. Anyone in the chat, let me know if you have any other opinions on it, or Ben, of course. But it's funny, that sentiment thing.
Yeah, but important thing is that there are new people coming in, and there's obviously more PHEX users coming in, but it's not that much. It's not that much more. So, there was a lot of people debating, PHEX or EHEX. And if you just look at new users charts, it's, of course, PHEX is a little bit more, but not that much more. So EHEX is not really dead. And there's a similar usage. You can see it in the staking behavior. You can see it in the new users metric. In PHEX, we have everything a little bit more amplified. Little bit more.
That's actually a cool thing too. Is the whole like EHEX is dead. Can that always be answered just by pointing out a chart? Can that question just be like, look at the chart? Is it dead? It's only dead if the bar goes to 0, right? If it's not at 0, and the metrics are similar or not, down 99% from PHEX, EX doesn't seem to be dead.
Yeah. And another metric which ties into here is because we talked about staking, is the average staking principal per month. So when you start a stake, what's the average used? And what's interesting is that these two charts differ in the sense that the average in HEX is, currently in November, we didn't conclude November yet, but it's skyrocketing in November at 3,300,000 HEX staked in average. But yet the chart is going up here, whereas in PHEX, it is not really going up that much.
Wow. So is that a signal for people getting more confidence in HEX? Like they're staking more? Of course, that discount, we talked about that before too, but is that like the confidence was like at an all-time low and hey, it just went up and to the right?
Well, you can think of it as it's cheaper. So for your money, you get more HEX and you can basically stake bigger amounts. But their value half of what they are in PHEX. So that's when a metric in HEX is going upwards, as well as maybe less people are staking bigger amounts, whereas in PHEX there are more people staking smaller amounts because it's cheaper to stake as well. So that's why you see in HEX such a rise, whereas in PHEX, I mean, not definitely because of these reasons, but these are some reasons which I can think of.
I had a question here to Hexgeta. Wonder why, despite staking volume objectively trending up, why is sentiment around HEX, around staking in general, so low right now? Are we actually onboarding new users, or are true Hexans just staking harder?
Well, I mean, what you can see is that, in all these charts where you look over time, yeah, we dropped, but it's still very stable. As well as, I mean, I like the combined charts, which I showed at the beginning, because they show the combination of something. So, for example, in this new address chart here, up here, we count these 4,000 addresses on the PulseChain side and the 4,000 addresses on the Ethereum side. What if these are new addresses which are only on one chain? Meaning that in total, if you would count them all up, then it would be 8,000 new addresses. So 8,000 new people would be introduced to HEX. So I like the combined charts much more because they show that the actual behavior in the system did not really change that much, and it's quite stable. It's just got distributed now onto two chains. And I'm not saying that if I combine now the new addresses charts, if it will be exactly the same. I just did not do it yet, but I want to. It was just much easier to just copy paste like the charts for the stream because data just loaded and I just wanted to show you all of these things. So those combined charts will be great to see, which I will work on in November. But for comparing HEX to PHEX, it's great.
Okay, one more question here from some of these names. How would you pronounce this name, Ben?
Einar.
Okay, Einar. Welcome, Einar. Nothing against your name.
Sorry if I pronounce it wrong.
That's so. What if your stake ends in a dip? So if it ends in a dip, I guess trying to think of how to answer this question. If it ends in a dip, I'm not sure what angle you're coming from, but if your stake ends and HEX price is down, then you have a choice whether to, you always have a choice, but I guess if you're, maybe that's the question. So let's say people's stakes have ended. People staked 2 or 3 years. Their stake just ended, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, at the perhaps the bottom. We don't know the bottom yet, but could be the bottom. Some very, very low HEX prices, quite a dip, as you might call it. What is going through your mind, I guess, at that point? Like, what do you think, or what is the data showing that people, I guess, maybe we even have some charts to show on that too. What are people doing at the point where their stake ends in a time where the price is super depressed?
I mean, I didn't develop any chart regards to that. I don't know. No idea.
Yeah,
but I
so
mean,
I guess
I mean, we can look at these charts and remember the biggest dips we had. I mean, in September, obviously, when we went really low. Was it August the lowest in HEX price, or in September?
One of those. That sounds like a terrible time.
Yeah, but yeah, you can see like not many new users came in, although there were new users who were coming in. But you can see it here. You can. I mean, I could make a daily chart, or we could really look into where was the biggest dip and what happened exactly at that time. For example, how many stakes were made exactly on that day. And I'm not sure how much you can really get out of it, because I think there are definitely users that are just not shaken by anything. They just restake. And we wanted to actually investigate emergency end stakes. You wrote me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually tying into that a little bit, because I made a little analysis on emergency end stakes for comparison. But I have to say that even though we had the fork, the amount of emergency end stakes that happened is negligible. And when you look at how many emergency end stakes were made before. We had basically, I'm just looking at this number here, 1.5K addresses who emergency end staked on HEX. And if you think about that, we have 120K addresses who are staking. 1.5K is not that much. And also the amount of emergency end stakes, if you look here over time, that's the upper chart on Ethereum. You can see that obviously in May we had a little bit more than afterwards, but it's not that much emergency end stakes if you compare it to what happened before. So what I want to say with this is, because you said what are people doing when the price dips really hard?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem that the stakers feel really affected by it. Some, of course, but I would say it's I mean, the chart says it's negligible. It's not like you got, I don't know, 30% of the people, 30% of the stakers now reacting to it. It's just 1% of the stakers reacting to it.
Well, you would have the data, or could get it, I think, of people who stake when they end. What do they do with it? Do they restake, or do they sell all, or principal, or otherwise? Is that something you could get from it?
Yeah, I made a chart before about restaking behavior on HEX, and that is going slowly down. But it's a very simplistic chart where I only look if somebody got the stake out, and if that same address makes a stake within that same month, it's counted as a restake, and if not, it does not count as a restake. And what was it? It was at 20-something% now. I could bring it up. I could look at the restaking ratio. Should we go to that, or should we look at these emergency end stakes here?
Yeah, I feel like so maybe for the rest of the stream, I'm trying to think how to cover this stuff, because I wanted to cover, of course, the stuff I asked you to get data on, and I want to cover the OA thing. So at least those two, I think we should prioritize. I know we got endless data to go through, but I think those two things would be good.
I'm just getting quickly at restaking chart.
Yeah, and of course, anything else you want to quickly bring up as well. That's of course. Einar also appears to have a significant position in HEX. Welcome, welcome. Hope you stay here for a long time, and wish you the maddest of gains as well. Let's talk in the chat, kind of explaining long-term, short-term, stuff like that, and yeah, it depends on your situation, your capital, your time horizon. A lot of things factor into it, whether you're going to make a lot of 1-year stakes, you're going to make a lot of 5, 10, 15-year stakes. So depends if you want more later, if you believe it's going to be around, if you think the price is going to go up or down, or all kinds of different ways to play it.
The chart is currently still loading. There it is. Yeah, so this is the restaking ratio. Basically, we see that a red is overtaking the chart. And so it's getting higher and higher, the percentage of addresses that are not restaking on Ethereum, on HEX. And yeah, since the PulseChain, basically after the fork, this went to, the restaking ratio was around 25%, from 25 until, and this is September, 27%. And before that, we had a 38% of restaking as a ratio. But basically over time, there's less and less restaking happening. This is HEX. Again.
Okay.
It's a simplest state model, where you just look an address, got it out in the same month, is it restaking or not? And then it counts or not.
Is there
any thoughts?
Where was the top? Where's the top for restaking?
Top for restaking?
Mm-hmm.
Here, 100% restaking in December 2019.
December 2019. Wow, was that people just staking for a few days and then restaking just to see if it works?
Yeah, I guess.
That's funny. For everyone listening, HEX was launched on December 2nd, 2019.
Then we had May 2020 and November 2020, meaning a lot of people obviously staked for big payday, but then they restaked. Or they emergency end staked, because you can see that they emergency end staked before the big payday and then restaked for longer. There are some people who did that to maximize the big payday bonus for their stakes. Basically to and have those nice T-share amounts.
Nice. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you would hope that this is not rising more, that at one point it stabilizes, going slightly down.
Yeah, is that the chart we want to see go down?
Yeah, obviously I could make a chart where a simplistic model where you just look, if somebody restaked in the same quarter, then you get a higher percentage. Or if somebody restaked within a year, then you would get a higher percentage.
Sure.
If you have enough, yeah?
No, go ahead.
No, if you don't have any thoughts, we can also go back to the emergency end stakes, because those were really interesting for me.
Yeah, let's go to those. I'll be right back. Give me like 1 minute. I'll be right back.
Cool. While he's coming back, we can also look at other things like staking starts and end ratios on HEX, which we crossed the line, which is here in the middle, where staking starts and staking ends are the same. We crossed it basically in April, and ever since there are more staking ends than staking starts on HEX. And I don't know exactly why I don't have October here. Where does it go? Ah, yeah, this is October. Yeah, so the October metric already improved from the start, from the top here, where we had 64% of stake ends and only 35% stake starts. Now we improved to 38% of stake starts than to ends. I mean, I guess the confidence boost, some whales buying up HEX was great. And you can see it here. And if we bottom out and there's better sentiment coming, then hopefully we go back to this golden ratio, that same amount of stake starts happens than stake ends. What else can I show you? You can just scroll up here. 15-year stakes. Okay, there's less and less 15-year stakes. This is really going down here, especially this year, especially since April, but it's stabilized. So in September we had 102, and in October we had 115. So all these metrics start to go up in October again, which is really great on the HEX side. I was just showing some other charts here in the meantime.
Yeah, I got a couple questions, sound like, from it too. So HEX stakes aren't doing too good right now?
Yeah, I mean, there is less and less, but since basically September, we saw an increase again in staking behavior. So slowly, especially in October, in every chart, and that's what I said just now, that in every chart we see a slight improvement again now in October. And we just saw a green candle. There's great sentiment. So we see a slight improvement in everything. So I had here an improvement, for example, here, where after some the ratio of staking starts to staking ends improved in October. As well as we have a couple of more 15-year stakes in October, than we had in September, as well as in 15-year stakers in total, and in many other charts, basically.
Are there no 15-year stakes, or very, very little now?
Yeah, very, very, very little now. We are definitely at the bottom of this chart, which just bottomed out in September. But as I said during the stream, that now you have two chains, and maybe people decide, okay, I want to do a 15-year stake, and maybe they decided to do it either on HEX, or they decided to either do it on PHEX. In a month, maybe I myself wouldn't do like 2 stakes on 2 chains, or maybe if I want to create a new stake, but maybe if I want to restake, maybe I do it on both chains. I will do that.
You think Hedron V2 coming out would kind of revitalize a lot of the people doing HSIs that would add to these numbers for 5555s?
Yeah. I mean, if ICOSA goes to that price ceiling, then for sure. And if there's a lot of borrowing going on, then more and more HSIs would be made. But the Hedron price has to rise for that. Or Hedron V2, like Hedron and ICOSA V2 have to come along, where where you can 10x your borrowing, and all of a sudden you can borrow enough so that it makes sense for you to borrow at the current prices.
That's
because
true.
currently at the current prices, it just doesn't make sense to borrow. Wouldn't like to go into that risk of borrowing such small amounts of money, and then if the price goes up, you have to pay just a lot back. It just really doesn't make sense to borrow currently.
Is Hedron one of the cleanest examples of like literally helping HEX, like encouraging 5555 stakes if it's working well, if it's like, if people are using it and it's doing well? Like, is its success like one of the biggest like helpers for HEX as far as like tech and derivatives and stuff go?
There's another one. Do you want me to say it?
There's two,
because there's a lot of talk about it currently.
Oh, that one. Yeah, no, go ahead, bring up Com.
Yeah, Com is the other one, which works mechanistically in the same way. If it has a high price, or the higher the price goes, the more it is rewarding long-term stakers and locking up that HEX for a long stake. But basically, in the current setup, if Com goes really high, then it incentivizes native staking. And if Hedron and ICOSA goes very high towards HEX, then it incentivizes HSI staking. With V2, that might change. But that's how I see it now.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they both basically. What did you want to say?
No, I was just going to ask for because I haven't paid much attention to Com. I know a lot of stuff's going on with it, but is that like, do you feel like, because I know when it first came out, it was, hey, here's this thing, it rewards HEX stakers. I talked about it before. It seemed interesting. Is it, I know there's like HEX secret weapon stuff going on with it too, and a bunch of data around it. I wonder how much of it is speculation, or how much of it is like actually going to come to fruition as well. Any thoughts on Com? I like the difference between incentivizing native staking and then Hedron incentivizing HSIs too, which could change in V2, as you said. But yeah, we'll cover Com for a second.
Yeah, Com, if you think about the supply of Com, then there's less supply, basically, the less staking is happening. And with Calm, it makes, I think it has one better mechanism in the sense of that when you make a stake, you can get the start bonus, and then you have to wait a really long time until you get your end bonus in Calm. While in Hedron, you can all the time mint the supply, and there are a lot of people who get those 10x bonuses when Hedron launched. So there's a lot of supply all the time coming in Hedron. So it's really hard to scoop up for some players the supply of Hedron because there's so much coming all the time. And it will take some time until that supply drops. Whereas in Calm, currently there's just a limited amount of Calm, and you can basically mint them all. And after that, if there's no staking happening anymore, then that amount of supply is limited. So you basically need to have new stakes either coming out or new stakes basically made so that you increase that supply. So you had, I think I might have even looked up the supply of Calm, how it was very rapid at the beginning and it very rapidly declined. And now that Calm is getting more valuable, I wouldn't be surprised if supply is slightly increasing again, but not as much anymore as at the beginning. And that's good for current price, basically. I'm not sure if
Interesting. No, yeah. I just want to quickly cover it while we're on it because I know everybody's been talking about it lately. Also, can't not shout out Maximus guys, Dip Catcher and Gold Key building some amazing positive feedback loop utility projects for HEX as well.
True. I like HEX T-share derivatives in all its forms, and it's so nice that they have all their different mechanisms, basically.
Just looking for chat. Oh yeah, one more before we go on. Jebediah, the question, does restaked mean the address had one or more stakes mature on the date and restaked them, or does it mean that all HEX addresses on that date, the indicated percentage restaked?
No, it's not the amount. It's if the address restaked or not. It can be like a smaller amount, so it does not account for how much it was restaked, if it was fully restaked or not. So if somebody took some profit or took the payout and sold that and just restaked the principal, then that would count as restaked. Gotcha. As well, it's not just on the date, it's like in the whole month. So if it took him like a week to restake, then that's still counted.
Gotcha. Yeah. What are we? Are we still on this, or do you want to go on to the? Because I know we got the 4 or 5. You got 4 or 5 charts of the stuff that I asked about.
Yeah. And that was one of the most surprising things for me personally.
Okay, here we go. Chat, are you ready? Are your bodies ready for surprising things to bin, at least?
Because you asked, you asked, I think, about emergency end stakes and how many people emergency end staked right on Ethereum, and how many of those kept stakes on PulseChain. That was your initial question, right?
That was one of them, if I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think about that? What's your hunch?
You say it again, just so. Pose it. I haven't got it pulled up. Can you say it again? I'll pull up I'll pull up our message. So I'm actually more prepared.
All right. I mean, you asked me if I should look up the emergency, like how many addresses emergency end staked after the fork on HEX. since the fork, and how
Yeah.
many of those like who emergency and staked kept basically stakes on PulseChain. So they only did it on Ethereum, but they didn't do it on PulseChain.
Yes, exactly.
What are your thoughts? What did you expect?
It's funny because, you know, when you have your own stakes, you kind of factor that in. It's like one of those like biases you have of, oh, I wonder if people are, you know, doing or thinking the same thing I'm thinking. And when it happened for me, I didn't do anything. I don't think I ended anything. I don't think I mercy and staked anything. I didn't convert anything over. I just kept everything the same. You know, of course, new stakes, of course, I would choose which one. But I think of what the majority of people would do, I have a sense that, or at least reading Twitter, it seemed like people were emerging and staking some of their HEX and either keeping it or maybe restaking it after the fork. But I don't know. I can't. I don't have the data yet. Show me the data.
All right.
Good question. I hadn't thought about it. I said it, and I was like, I'm curious, but I hadn't thought about what I think about it yet.
Well, what was initially surprising for me is like, which I mentioned before, because we were at this dashboard before, that only 1.5K addresses emergency and strike from the 120K staking addresses, meaning that's kind of like only 1% of all the stakers. 1% is 1%, right? But the panic that you felt, like on Twitter, what was going on, was not really that justified. The stakers really did not panic that much, according to what I see, and according to the emergency end stakes on Ethereum. Since the fork, there were 3,000 emergency end stakes, and the red chart here shows the emergency end stakes per month, and it's going down. So it's not, people are not freaking that much out, and they know their systems. So it's not the staker class which was actually emergency end staking and then dumping their HEX. It was, I mean, there were definitely some addresses, but it was just liquid holders who were holding liquid, speculating, and then dumping their HEX. So that was something that was very interesting to me. What was even more interesting to me is that there were more emergency end stakes on PulseChain.
Wow.
Did you see that coming?
No. There's more on PulseChain.
Yeah.
And maybe the reason was the price took such a hit that they were just like, they wanted to sell, or they wanted to, I guess what other reason would you have to mercy and stake on the new chain with your copy? So again, before the fork happened, you know, one theory that, you know, there's what's going on. It's certainly people who thought everything was going to go down, but it seems like the majority of people thought that this was like a, you know, who knows what the price is going to be.
Sure.
But it was like a minority theory. Seemed like it was going to, like, you know, be the stock split type of thing and go down, and now it's all shared and all this stuff. But however, the airdrop copy, something I talked about a lot before too. You know, that's something a lot of people dump airdrops when they get it. Maybe they buy it back later, but a lot of times the free token gets dropped. Now, HEX appeared to be maybe an exception in that way, as this was treated more as, you know, whether it's true or not, people treated it more as a migration than an airdrop. Definitely didn't treat it as the free thing to dump, at least as comparison to, you know, HEX and HEX in general. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that's I guess, what other reason would you have to emergency in stake unless you just smelled trouble in the ecosystem, or you saw other opportunity. Maybe that was it. People wanted to emergency in state because they wanted to gamble on some of the stuff going on in the ecosystem, or maybe they just wanted more PulseChain. They wanted to buy it. It did that 2.5x. I don't know if you remember. It did this, and then just down after that. Anyways, that's some of my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't give you the definitive answer because I didn't investigate it since. I just put basically these charts together, and now we can like think about it. And maybe throughout November, I can look into some aspects which you just said. But this was really interesting for me that on the PulseChain side, since the fork, we had 2.1K addresses, and only on 30% of the 2.1K addresses also emergency and staked on Ethereum, whereas we have 1.5K addresses and on Ethereum, and 55% emergency and staked basically on both chains of those users. Hope not to confuse anybody here with all of these numbers. But when you look at the PHEX chart here, and you see in May, we have a really big bar, around 2,400 emergency and stakes happened in May on the PHEX side. So back then, I think EHEX was even priced more than PHEX, right? At the very beginning.
I don't remember. Was it?
Wasn't for a short period of time. And maybe people thought that they could use their PHEX very easily because maybe the bridge wasn't up there. So they could just emergency and stake, get some of their HEX, and then just buy quickly PulseChain, or buy quickly PulseX, or any other thing that they want. So maybe they just wanted needed some liquid things for all the new possibilities on PulseChain. And ever since, there's still more emergency and stakes happening on the PulseChain side than on the Ethereum side.
When you say it, that would make sense. Even if I don't remember, it makes sense that the thing that's already over there, the thing you don't need to bridge over, could take a bigger hit in price, which could make EHEX, be higher than it, at least for a short period of time, because people are wanting to get more PulseX or, PulseChain otherwise.
Yeah. As well as maybe to emergency and stake on the PulseChain side is cheaper. So maybe there are smaller stakes, which, it made sense to emergency and stake them now quickly to get some, liquid assets.
Before those PulseChain fees went way high. Remember when fees were cheap on PulseChain?
Oh, when was that? So first day.
Yeah. I mean, of course, we're talking
first hour.
Of course, we're talking in absolute terms.
Yeah.
Relatively speaking, still obviously
it's very cheap. But still, even if you look at the 2.1K addresses or the 5,000 emergency end stakes on PulseChain, it's still not much. I mean, compared to the staker class. So nobody's really panicking in the HEX staker class. It's more like the people who hold liquid, I would say.
That makes sense. I mean, if you're holding liquid, everyone's got their own game plan. But that's one thing I like about HEX is staking can save you from yourself. It can also save you from taking profits if that's your plan too. That's the cool thing about HEX. Everyone has their own situation. Everyone has their own capital. Everyone has their own time horizon. And then HEX is a tool. a tool that gives you the ability to execute on whatever your goals are. So that's the cool thing about it.
Yep. Love it or hate it.
Yep. Oh, believe me, there's both camps. We have both camps. But sometimes the haters come over. Sometimes the haters are secret hexagons. You never know.
There's one more chart where I compared EHEX and PHEX, which was really mind-blowing. And it really shows what cheap fees can do.
Okay.
Are you ready?
My body's ready.
So these upper two charts, again, I have EHEX on the left side and PHEX on the right side. These are transactions per month. And whereas on EHEX side, I mean, we went really low in transactions in June. We had a peak here in May. Of course, a lot of people took their EHEX to PulseChain. And ever since, transaction counts went really low here. I mean, don't count November yet. But in October, obviously, we saw an uptick. But if you look at PHEX, I mean, in May, we have a new all-time high in amount of transactions. Like we just made 472,000 transactions related to PHEX. And the last top was July 2021. Basically around PulseChain sacrifice. So all of a sudden it shoots up to 472,000 transactions.
How did this is PX transactions? Shouldn't it just be past May?
Past May.
Maybe I'm getting confused on the chart. I thought this was PX transactions per month, but PulseChain didn't launch, so there was no PX until May 2023.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, I mean here so it's taking the data also from previously. I didn't cap it. So basically, everything before the fork, you can also see it. So all the EHEX transactions before the fork are counted, and then from the fork on, only the PHEX transactions are counted on the right side.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in this to understand it better, in these 472,000 transactions, okay, 200,000. Maybe not even 200,000. That I don't know. There are some double, like if you would like to put these together to have a count in EHEX transactions and PHEX transactions, some of them are counted double until the 10th of May when the PulseChain fork happened. But that aside, the fact that we just have 472,000 in May, and then since then, I mean, here 200, there 200, 230,000 transactions in August. It just shows what cheap transactions really do. And mostly of them is definitely, like trading, swapping left, right, do different things. Yeah, this is like, this chart really shows the power of cheap fees.
So it's, we're looking at the EHEX, you're looking at tens of thousands transactions versus hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, I mean, in September, let's take 23K. And here we have 144K. Quite a difference.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was never so active. People never interacted so much with HEX than recently, even if it's a lot of many small transactions. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, cheap trend. I mean, it enables a lot of applications too. It enables a lot of different scenarios and volume. And interesting, the more volume that comes through, a lot more fees and stuff. Validators get paid those tips and otherwise. So interesting. Wow. Cheap fees. Cheap fees do help more. So yeah, I guess the takeaway is cheap fees correlated to more transactions.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's what you also want to see. Like, you want to see the system use more. It didn't lead to more staking, but it led definitely to more activity, more transactions happening. And it's great. I think a lot of activity is great because people interact with the product a lot. Yeah.
What do we got next? Very interesting.
What do we got next? The thing is, I think I ran out of time.
Oh, you got time to hit the OA before we go? I can even bring up the tweet and you talk about it if that's faster.
No, I have it here.
Okay.
And we can do it quickly. It's just my new supply model where I recounted the OA addresses and where I counted the circulating supply, which is held by the OA estimated. It's an estimation. But many other people did this estimation before, but I think I even got more addresses than anybody else before. And just to say, like, Dustbaum actually messaged me and asked me if I can share basically the addresses that I have of the OA, of what I believe the OA addresses are. And I shared it with him. So he uploaded it into his Google Sheet. He has one Google Sheet where he did the OA analysis before. And there's like one tab where you basically got all the addresses that basically I included here. So if you want to look them up, it's there. And with that, I got to basically to 87% of circulating supply held by the OA. And that would leave the circulating supply to be only at 3.6%, which is, 23, 24 billion HEX. This is on the Ethereum side. I didn't do it for the PHEX yet. And just because we talked about the OA, here's just down a chart how the percentage of the OA in relation to the circulating supply developed. And it basically goes all the time down. It only increased basically during PulseChain and PulseX sacrifice. So the OA is getting diluted.
Right.
And that's what we want to see.
Yeah.
So when
you talk about the OA so the ideal, right, is like, so nobody can come in and buy HEX. Like, they can't buy, you can't have, BlackRock or JP Morgan can't come in and buy HEX because they can't get all the supply because it's locked up and all that stuff. So if it gets diluted over time, though, does that mean over time it is just going to all, like, do you think it's best for the ecosystem that, I don't know, how long it would take? You think it'd take 10 years, 20 years, 30 years for the OA to just basically silently exit because of, getting diluted over time? Or how do you think they'll always be around 80, 90% ownership?
I think it doesn't make sense for it to have all the time 90%. I think this is it's the goal to dilute basically the OA, and basically the staker class is diluting the OA. So the people who stake and believe in the system are diluting the OA, and they will take over. I mean, bigger and bigger shares of the circulating supply. And until the OA has only 20%, or who knows how much. And you could make a calculation based on current trends and current staking behaviors. You could do that and have a projection. That would be interesting. The other thing that you can do if you know the OA share, and I didn't want to necessarily audit the OA, but what it's really good at is to count user circulating supply. That I really wanted to get to, and then to have a chart, which is up above here, to have a chart of user circulating supply, because we know that kind of how the supply looks like in general, and it's the supply increases every year by 3.69%. But if you look at user supply, it's actually a different kind of thing, where the inflation is different.
Got a question here from Goldkey too. Have you looked into how much the OA earns from its stakes?
I did not. I did not. But I have the data. I just didn't have time. I was more interested in user circulating supply, but I will get to that as well.
Interesting. The OA, very interesting entity. Who knows who it is? Yeah, honestly, I think it makes more. Yeah, maybe that's the final question on OA real quick too. Does it make more sense for, if you were setting up a system like this, pretend you're making HEX from the start, and all these values and all this, longevity, like longevity as in like you want the system to last a long time, and all the things that we see, the values that have been like kind of instilled in the ecosystem of protecting users and best friend, all that stuff. If you were going to formulate that as the OA, would it be person, company, distributed? Have you thought about that before?
What would I prefer the OA to be from those selections?
Yeah, what would make the most sense for a system like this?
You mean if it's better if it's a foundation or if it's a person, or in that direction?
Yeah, for example, it would probably, there's like a lot of downsides to being a person, because what if the person dies? What if the person gets stuff confiscated? Yeah. What if all those things? So
it's great that it's a mystery, in the sense of that you can't be 100% sure. You just speculate. And that's the best thing, because if you speculate, if the person dies, who the OA, if it's a person who's behind the OA, and if the person dies, are you sure, that supply is gone and there's nobody protecting the users? Because maybe there's another person, and maybe that person will protect the users. So from the outside, if you look at it, you can never be sure. Meaning if it's a mystery, like a Satoshi Nakamoto mystery, where you just don't know, it means that it protects, it just protects at all time. Unless when you see on chain that it does not protect anymore. And by basically counting the OA share, what I found is that by very easy rules, you can define those addresses. Meaning it's almost like the OA wanted it, that somebody can count it in an easy way. I mean, it's like 3,000 addresses or something. So you have to do some calculation there, but they have all the same pattern. So it wanted to be a mystery, but it makes it easy to count. So if it's easy to count, then you can look at the data in an easy way, and it's transparent. So I'm not sure if it was exactly intended like it. It's just played out really nice.
A mystery, and yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see over time. What's are there any moves that happen in the next 10 years? Are there any more sacrifices where the supply gets more locked up and the dilution kind of resets for a minute too? Wow, exciting times indeed.
Definitely. Max, it was a hell of a lot of fun. But I think I have to leave.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
And come on next time. I mean, it's really fun to talk data and talk with you and theorize about why stakers did this, stakers did that, why users got in here, why they didn't.
Yeah, man. Of course. Yeah, I'm gonna. Like I said, I made a note on the getting the data as well, and I'm gonna coordinate with you on that. And everyone who is following either of us or both of us on Twitter, look out for your way to participate on helping Ben put together some more amazing data for all of us to learn and get insights from, as Gold Key mentioned as well. So. Yeah. What do you want to take us out on? What's next, or what are you looking forward to other than what we talked about, or
I now in November I would like to just create these combined charts, because I think they give a good representation of what's happening. Because if you combine the PHEX and the EHEX data, you can basically see that staking behavior stayed the same, or other aspects which are rising, or that, like, now that you have two chains and everything is split, not one is winning over the other. There are certain ratios between EHEX and PHEX. So I would like to delve into them, make those combined charts to get an overall understanding of what's happening with HEX. And I think those combined charts make it really happen instead of looking at two different charts. Yeah, this is the first thing. And then get also some more trading data from PulseX, from PulseChain into my data warehouse. That's next.
I like it, man. We're we love the stuff you post on Twitter and otherwise, and talk about it. Really appreciate you putting it together and spending the time to do it, because it's super interesting, informative, and that's what we like. We're known as the community with the best stats in all of crypto. We want to keep that up.
Shout out to all the other stats makers.
Yes, there's so many
really nice ones.
So many. Shout out them indeed. Everyone, that's all we got for you. Follow Ben at Ben Sierra Pro on Twitter, and we're gonna work on some stuff and maybe come back and do another stream to talk about some more interesting stuff at some point. Everyone, Scivive and 5555. We are out.